Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everybody. Let me introduce yourself. We are both agricultural and plant protection engineers and employees of Syngenta. I'm responsible for the herbicides since 2013 and actually for the biologicals as well in Hungary. Last year, András asked me or gave me an exercise that how can we replace glyphosate on the railway weed management, or which type of herbicides can be used effectively against the weeds on the railways. I thought it's a very easy work because we worked with herbicides for 20 years, but it was a mistake. It's a very hard exercise. How can we replace glyphosate and how can we use effective chemical active ingredients against the weed because of the regulation situation, because of the social problems you know and you heard Chilla. Our presentation contains two different parts. The first part was will present by me, and the second will by my colleague László. My part contains maybe general information about the weed problems and about the weed management system in Hungary. You know, clearly weeds causes some problems during the traffic, for example, different injuries or delaying. Also, the weed management system on railways is very important, and we have to use some solutions, maybe chemical, mechanical, and other different ways of the weed management. And which type of weeds can appear in our area. The annual weeds germinating by wet condition. Also, if we keep the railway or the ballast dry, we can stop the germination of the plants, but it's a little bit hard work. And concrete is not the best way because we use concrete or asphalt everywhere, also at the stations or other social places. The second plant or weed species are the dicot species, for example, reed or Equisetum arvense. The emergence or the appearance of this weed not impacted by the wet condition or the dry. If our area is infected by these weeds, the appearance is 100%. We know, and with the root system of this weed species can destroy the ballast and damages the railway. Also, the weed management strategy against this is not enough if we use foliar herbicide or we burn only the green leaf area. We have to kill the root system of these plants as well. And the third part, like Rubus caesius, these weed species emerges not in the middle of the road, and they can develop vines or stems, and of course can damage the railways as well. Just one Hungarian study about the weed flora of the railways. It was a 30-kilometer long railroad, and 19 invasive weed species was detected. Trees, for example, Robinia, Pseudoacacia, or Celtis occidentalis Acer negundo. Bushes, for example, Amorpha fructicosa, and some other perennial weeds, for example, Solidago gigantea and Asclepias syriaca. Also, and we have to understand the weed management strategy, or the weed management is other than on the fields or the field conditions, or in orchards or vineyards. Because the railway structure, superstructure, for example, the crushed stone creates special condition or circumstances for working and for the weeds, of course, as well. Which factors can be considered railroad weed control? First, the long-term safety and the working order of the track system. The second is protection of the human health and the environment is the much more important part of the weed management solution on the railways. And third, the protection of the water bases, of course, the surface and the underground waters as well. And of course, the cost. How many time, how many, the volume of the water and the volume of the herbicides, it's very, and the human costs, of course. Okay. The optimal weed management, environmentally appropriate. The first phase is the prevention against the undesired plants. Which type of weed management strategies can we use? The first, the structural, for example, concrete, asphalt, etc., etc. The second is the biological herbicides. The biological herbicides have a little problem because the biological herbicides has very tight weed spectrum, can affect only one or two weed species actually. But I hope in the future the role of the biological weed control will be much more better than actually. Mechanical, we know it's very expensive, and of course the chemical control with the pre-emergence herbicides. The second, the removal of the undesired plants with mechanical weed control, with chemical, with the post-emergence herbicide like glyphosate, and the thermal and electrical solution. But our presentation focused on the chemical solutions in the future, but we have to tell the integrated weed management strategy or the combined weed management strategy is the future, not only the chemical solution. Okay, the post-emergence herbicide can control the plants after they emerge. The pre-emergence herbicide can stop the germination of the plants from seeds. And the Hungarian weed control strategy contains three different phases. In the first phase, the annual mono and the dicot weeds are sprayed. In the second phase, the perennial weeds are targeted. And if the results of the first two application is not satisfactory or not enough, we can use the third application. Okay, it was my part, and I give the words for my colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, Viktor. So I would like to continue this presentation about the chemical part. So in the first presentation, we have seen a skin in a kitchen, right? So let's see what are the available ingredients to cook with, right? So this is the first thing. What we need to see is what are the available solutions for us to use for railway weed control. So here we have glyphosate. That's obvious. So many available products on the market. And then fluorosulfuron also with labor use, 2,4-D, which we know very well against the dicots, and the other labor solution use metsulfuron and pelargonic acid. And the last one is mainly a soil herbicide with emergency permit. Now it's a quite busy slide, so I just try to collect all the considerable herbicides that can be used for railway weed control. So we touched the cooking. So these are all the available ingredients, raw materials can be found in shops before we cook, right? So these are all registers, knowing the fact that we are under pressure in terms of regulation, very well depicted in the first presentation, but still we have options as we can see. So I marked the EU regulatory judgment with different colors, obviously. So the green is fine, the yellow is not so bright future, and the red is we know is more will be out. And then I made this table based on the latest classification of the herbicides presented or published by the herbicide resistance action committees. So according to the new classifications, we are using numbers instead of letters from the past, but in this presentation, I still want to use the letters just for the better understanding of different mode of actions available for us. So we more or less clear on what are the different herbicide groups available. And then I just listed the considerable ingredients for chemical weed control, because we know all these herbicides, so all the registered, mainly in arable crops, and we know the environmental profile, the human safety, everything, but it's true for arable usage. So we can consider any of these options later in these presentations. So in this slide, we just wanted to differentiate these chemicals, these herbicides, based on the activity type. So F means the foliar activity, and obviously the next one is the soil activity. And then we may distinguish between annuals and perennials. That's obvious. And then we just described the activity types is again monocots, grasses, or even dicots. And luckily, we have many active ingredients which can control both. So both dicots and monocots is a cross-spectrum herbicides. So this is a very comprehensive table, as you can see. And then we try to give you some update about the mixability rules that is true for all these active ingredients. So as a general recommendation, always the best to use the available or the original formulation, or even a ready mix formulation, rather than mixing it from two bottles. So the original one is almost always better to use than the mixed one. And then the mixability rules of the glyphosate, because we know that not always like each other. Well, we know this example in the ready mix glyphosate was 2,4-D, but in other cases, I don't really want to mix products with glyphosate, especially with auxins, because it can cause problems. And then we know I've listed ALS-based products, not only the fluorosulfuron, the metsulfuron. I just list you other options. So we need to consider the mix of ALS-based products with other active ingredients types. And then looking at the possibility of mixing other active ingredients, including the fast-acting pelargonic acid, we also need to consider whether to mix it or not if we like to achieve a really long-lasting effect, mainly against perennials, right? So this is also very important. And then if we have serious problems, mainly with perennial grasses like Phragmites or Calamagrostis, like Viktor presented previously, we definitely need to use ACCs as a possible replacement of glyphosate, specifically against perennial grasses. And then, as we can see, we can't solve the replacement of glyphosate with one single pass solution. I think that's obvious. But with integrated weed management or view, I think we can find a good way to solve all the weed problems independently from the actual weed flora, what we have in the railways. And also, thanks to the improvement of the digitalization and the application technology, we will have more and more opportunities to acquire better results in precision weed management, including this optical patch or spot spraying, and it's also under development in important areas. And then we just like to group the possibilities depending on the application timings. So in this slide, I would like to show alternatives replacing the first usual application, which is glyphosate based. I just want to show you possible working solutions to replace glyphosate. So we can see that if we mix auxin and the PPO inhibitor and herbicide like petoxamide with significant soil effect, we can achieve a very long-lasting effect, and it will be effective both against dicots, monocots, annuals, and perennials. So this would be the aim of the first application when we like to achieve a long-lasting effect, and of course an effect against the overwintered or the emerged weed species in the first phase. Then we move to the second phase when we like to preserve this long-lasting effect, and in this phase we mainly prevent the railways against the perennial ones. So that's why we need very effective herbicides, and also not only a one-pass single solution. I would like to propose in that case also flazosulfuron or metsulfuron based herbicides are still fine. We can consider to add auxin and with or without HPPD. Of course, I'm talking about in theory, because none of these herbicides are registered below. But from arable crops, we all have the alternatives to replace glyphosate, or even we can consider a precautious way what happens if flazosulfuron considered to be dangerous for us, right? So immediately we all have these options. So we can replace any of these existing materials, because as you remember, I have shown only 5 different products or active ingredients can be used. So it's very weak in terms of the palette, right? So we need to be precautious. So consider in advance what to do once we are in a trouble, because we have seen the regulatory environment is not so favorable, even for the registered products. So these are the options that we can use in the second phase, and again mainly against the perennial ones, and we can complete it with specific solutions. For example, against grasses, perennial grasses, we can use ACCs, inhibitor herbicides, always at the top rate. And then if we need to apply at the third timing, of course, considering some remaining weed species after the first 2 applications based on the local strategy carried out in Hungary, we can consider to apply, I need to go back. So we can consider to apply pelargonic acid as usual, but we know that it's a kind of contact herbicide, so we can't consider 2 long-lasting effects. So for the winter period, we would need a kind of longer lasting effect. So I would suggest to use the same methodology as in the first phase. So it means we would need to mix 2 or even 3 different mode of actions just to achieve a really wide spectrum, and then also to have a soil effect, which can guarantee us that there won't be significant germination during the winter period. Think about senecio, which makes the railways so yellow, and we know that these senecio species are there are big populations resistant to glyphosate. So with this strategy, we can avoid the resistance, and then also can achieve a long-lasting effect against the annual ones. And of course, we can consider the mechanical weed control if it is necessary, not only against kind of weed species, against bushes or trees if they cause problems for us beyond the normal chemical weed control. So our final tips and takeaways, we can consider a label extension as manufacturer companies, but we know it's not easy, and also we know that the registration process is not easy, and the success is not guaranteed in general. So in the second point, I would rather trust on the emergency permits if we have some special problems and if we like to substitute the glyphosate in a prompt way because we have available solutions in arable crops. The only thing we need to do is just to apply for this emergency permit if we have wheat problems that cannot be controlled by the existing listed solutions. And then, of course, the regulatory environment can be vary depending on the countries. So I think it can be manageable. And I think it would be also important that manufacturers need to initiate a kind of communication among them just to achieve a really good and long-lasting chemical solution and replace the glyphosate if it is necessary and if possible anyhow. So that's all from our side. Happy to answer all any question if you have.